Without a doubt, the GP of Spain was an exciting race, with again many problems with several cars. Verstappen was not amused when his car didn't work the way he wanted. Besides Red Bull, also Ferrari's Charles Leclerc had better days, as a power unit failure cost him his leading place in the rankings and handed Red Bull the championship lead. Let's see why Verstappen lost his mind during the Grand Prix in Spain and what else happened during the race. But before we get into the video, if you are new here, please press the bell button to stay up to date and hold on tight, because we are going on a very informational journey. 2 hours before the race, a temperature of 35 degrees Celsius was recorded on the Barcelona track. This means that when a Formula 1 car leaves the garage, the temperature of the fuel must be at least 25 degrees. Because colder fuel is more efficient, a minimum temperature has been established for everyone to follow. Once the car is in the proper starting position on the grid, the temperature of the fuel is measured. Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly arrived in Spain later than the rest of the competitors, and it took them a long time to get to the right position after their lap to the grid. According to the aforementioned medium, Red Bull's chief engineer Paul Monahan, FIA technical delegate Joe Bauer, and deputy head of single-seater affairs Tim Goss had intense discussions on the grid. Mattia Binotto was inquired about the matter by the aforementioned medium. This is because after their reconnaissance circuits, Ferrari discovered that Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly were rolled into their starting places late. The Italian team's manager is staying quiet about it, but says that he believes it had something to do with the fuel temperature. Binotto said, "I can only trust the FIA. Verstappen and Gasly do not have to worry about a penalty being imposed later." Indeed, according to the International Motorsport Federation, the fuel temperature of the two drivers' cars was consistently above the minimum. During the race, Max had problems with the DRS. But before we get into the car problems of Max Verstappen, let's have a look at the Ferrari engine problems. In the end, this is also a reason why Verstappen and Perez achieved their second 1-2 finish this season. Leclerc had a good start to the race, leading early on, and was ahead of his rival Max Verstappen in both the race and the championship. Then, everything went wrong so quickly when he came into the pit lane, because of an unknown motor malfunction on lap 26. Although Leclerc has dropped points to other races this season, it was not as drastic as this. Of course, for Verstappen and teammate Perez, this engine issue came out well. The first retirement of the season happened at a time of high mileage on the engine, which will cause concern for Ferrari that its heavily revised engine design may not be as reliable as it needs to be. With its new internal combustion engine, Ferrari started the year in good shape, at least competing with Honda and looking more reliable as well. But the season is 22 races long, so each engine has to participate in at least 7 of them to avoid a penalty. Although reliability fixes are allowed within the frozen engine specifications, an engine failure in race 6 is concerning. However, Ferrari has yet to pinpoint the exact problem at hand. Ferrari only learned about this failure when the first panicked radio message from Leclerc arrived. This was a serious matter, one that will be addressed in Maranello before the Monaco Grand Prix. It is apparent from the recent title fights that reliability is a key factor for Ferrari, and their vulnerability was immediately exposed when Verstappen won and Sergio Perez supported a Red Bull 1-2. This dealt Ferrari a substantial loss in both championships. He hadn't won since Australia when Verstappen retired. After that race, Leclerc had a huge lead and was 46 points ahead of the Red Bull driver. As of now, Verstappen leads Leclerc by 6 points, and Ferrari is now 26 points behind Red Bull in the championship, after Carlos Sainz's poor performance that began with a slow start and worsened when he spun at the fourth corner. Earlier in the season, Ferrari built an advantage over its main rival in part because its rival was inconsistent and underperforming. And Ferrari cannot afford to lose those advantages. It's the one facing a points deficit now, and we know how that feels, pointing out problems for Red Bull after it was just able to bag a 1-2 and take the lead of both championships. And after all that, Ferrari's lead driver retired, but before that, Red Bull had been losing the race in an undeniably dramatic manner. Earlier in the race, Verstappen had been second behind Leclerc but got caught out by a gust of wind during turn 4. Then, a tire issue caused its world champion to show obvious anger, which compromised his race. In qualifying, Verstappen had already experienced an irritating DRS issue that ruined his final effort, and although he felt he would have still lost pole to Leclerc regardless, he was very fortunate that it did not cost him any more positions on the grid. Besides the bad race for Leclerc, what happened to Verstappen's DRS that made him curse so much? The Red Bull team changed the DRS actuator overnight, but the problem persisted on Sunday, May 22nd. With this, Verstappen wasn't able to turn on the DRS initially, making things difficult when trying to overtake George Russell's Mercedes. Even though the problem persisted for the entire race, Verstappen's frustration was evident several times on the team radio. According to Red Bull, the cause of the jamming is that the car was too light and flexed too much because of weight loss, which caused the DRS components to be too light. Further, Verstappen mentioned at the last race in Miami that because of the weekend inconsistencies at the moment, it is a problem for Red Bull. Unlike his recent successes, Verstappen's 2022 performance has followed a surprisingly linear pattern: he either wins or retires. That's something he knows couldn't last a season if he wanted to win the championship. Verstappen recorded back-to-back victories for the first time in the first 3 races, and now he has 3 straight victories. Verstappen's title push has gained much-needed momentum after his first streak of the season. In its early season, Red Bull did not perform well, so this does seem like the team is adapting and fixing things. However, that isn't entirely accurate. Meanwhile, inconvenient problems still exist with Red Bull. Verstappen knew his weekend in Miami was at risk of being disastrously thrown off by a disastrous Friday, caused by a gearbox change, an incorrectly fitted hydraulic line, and a late start in FB2. He felt he lost a podium chance due to a sensor issue mid-race that reduced his engine power. He felt the problem was not resolved in time. Verstappen's Grand Prix in Spain was further complicated by DRS problems, which may have had a tangible impact on qualifying. Despite that, he still gives Red Bull a hard time and has been calling them to step up, as he knows the team has high standards to meet. Verstappen has been preaching being more reliable since his shock double DNF at the season's opening GP. According to some reports, some sloppiness may have crept into the power unit construction after the new agreement with Honda, which is now effectively a supplier after Honda's official exit at the end of 2021. Although that is true, Red Bull itself has also played a role in its problems. During the Spanish Grand Prix, there were even reports that Verstappen might need to start the race from the pit lane due to an apparent problem with the temperature of his car's fuel. Verstappen was put out onto the grid as a result, but that still stands out since Red Bull had an encounter with the FIA in the lead-up to the race. It is certain that more often than not, we will see Verstappen's emotions emerging as they did in Spain, as long as Red Bull doesn't iron out issues like these. In these situations, neither driver nor the team performs their best. As a result, they add tension to situations that are already high stress, which can harm even the strongest working relationships. Verstappen would most likely have come in a distant and frustrating second if Ferrari hadn't handed it back to Red Bull on a plate. His recent championship momentum has come to a halt after losing ground in the championship race. As finale, Verstappen came in on lap 45 for his final stop, and also grabbed a set of mediums. The Dutchman came back onto the track, behind teammate Perez, and narrowly ahead of Russell. It did create a luxury problem for Red Bull. Can Perez win the race, or should he leave the spot to Verstappen? Perez received the subtle hint on the board radio that he should let Verstappen pass, because they are on a different strategy. That's unfair, but okay, was the Mexican's response on the board radio. Not much later, it happened. Perez granted his teammate the space and was thus caught off guard. What do you think about the car problems this Formula 1 season? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe with a post notification so you don't miss out on Max Verstappen Formula 1.